Alright, today we have a 2022 BMW X3 Xdrive30i. Doing rear brakes on it. Did the front brakes the other day, but I had to wait for parts for the rear. So let's get to it.
We have 17mm lug studs.
Alright, getting to it on the rears here now that we got the wheel off. You are going to have to put the car into service mode for the rear parking brake on the calipers here. Unfortunately, there is no way to do it through the infotainment system, so you're going to have to get a scanner or somebody with a scanner in order to do that. Otherwise, usually there are hex bolts on there, and you could just remove it and then press the caliper in that way. Now, you do not want to turn back the caliper until you remove that. Alright, on the front here we have, what is that? Hex 6mm 3/8 socket. Usually I throw that on my handy dandy Milwaukee. I do put it in its low torque mode, just its tightening. Just that way I don't strip it out. Nothing is worse than having to drill these out. And just like that you remove it and you set her up there. Next up, we're going to use a 13mm 3/8 socket and 3/8 ratchet, and we're going to remove. There is a little nut on the end there. Sometimes you need a wrench to hold that in place while you loosen. In that case, it's a 17mm. Make sure that you find one that is pretty slim. Sometimes they don't want to fit on the nut. Otherwise, you'll have to use a vice grip. Eventually, you'll get to a point that's loose enough to take off with your hand. And we'll get at the bottom one. Bottom one is a little tight. I suppose you could use a extension or something to get past that. We're just in this case going to use a ratcheting wrench. Alright, the back calipers are the twisting type. What you're going to need to do is get a special brake twisting tool like this. It's a 3-point. Again, it's got a magnetic little disc. Snaps on the top here, backing plate. Usually you're going to want to start pretty close down to the base with this twisting nut here. And we're going to spin it clockwise back into the caliper. Set that in there, you line up the holes. I like to twist the nut. Get it seated back so you have some pressure. Tool is pretty rusty, crusty. I'm working in some salted driveways. So we're just going to twist that back. It might be difficult depending on where you live. But essentially, we have to create space for those new thicker brake pads that we have. Nice thing with it being a newer vehicle, you don't have to worry too much. Alright, with the caliper wind back, we're going to find this nice spot for that to kind of be out of our way. Alright, it's going to be hard to tell, but on the passenger side, the brake pad wear sensor is going to be inside this little box up in the wheel well. You just need to pop it open. There's those little clips on the side. Open that up. And if you track it back from the caliper, there's going to be this little with the blue clip here. Remember where you routed that. And we just want to carefully press down and remove that there. This is our old sensor. Looks like the tips have been broken off, causing the dash light to be on. So put that aside. And we're going to get our new sensor. Always like to compare. Make sure that we're dealing with the same parts here. Looks like we are. And we'll just route the new one back in there. The way those brake pad wear sensors work is you have a little tip that gets pressed into the brake pad. As your brakes wear down, the bottom of the sensor will end up breaking and wearing in with the rest of the pad, and that will cause your light to go off. These pads maybe have a little bit of uneven wear to them. Their slider pins do seem nice and clean still, so we'll replace those and get those in. Next up, we want to remove the caliper bracket. The caliper bracket is held in with two E-Torx bolts, and those are going to be an E16. So make sure you get yourself an E-Torx set. You will potentially strip them out. I mean, do what you want, but sometimes you can use a 6-point socket and get those in there. They do have thread locker on them, so you'll want to use a 1/2-inch ratchet with a little bit longer handle on it. In this case, they're a 3/8 socket, so I have a little adapter on there. Let's see if we can get those busted out. Once you get them loosened, you should be able to get them out no problem. Don't want your caliper dangling. Position that sucker up there. Usually I use a hook. In this particular case, wasn't a really good spot to put the hook. Alright. Break them loose. Use a smaller, more manageable ratchet. Wrong side. And bust them out. Alright, these are E-Torx bolts that hold on the caliper. They are supposed to be replaced according to BMW. Usually they come pre-set up with some thread locker on it. So make sure you order the new bolts. Sometimes they can get deformed. I'm not really sure what the deal is. Sometimes they are torque to yield. But just make sure to replace your hardware so that way it doesn't break off or back out if it's called for. Next up, we want to clean up our caliper bracket. This is going to extend the life of our brakes. We always want to put new hardware on it if we're provided with such. If we're not, you can always order it. Just peel that off. Sometimes you need a screwdriver. Next up, you want to use a wire brush of some sort. Clean up the places where the slides, the clips go in. You could use a wire brush, or you could use a wire wheel. Just get them straightened up so that way the pads move nice and freely. You don't have to hammer them in or anything. Alright. Those seem pretty good. It's a newer car. Not totally worried about it. Next we'll take some brake grease. Brake grease is what keeps your brakes moving. I like to dab a little bit in there. I don't know who taught me that, but it helps prevent corrosion. Got our new hardware right here. Upside down. Always compare your parts, make sure that what you're putting on is what it had. Alright, once you have that in there, again, more brake grease on top. Next step of preparing your caliper, you should have a towel on me. Just clean your slide pins. Your side pins don't move, your brakes will seize, your pads will wear unevenly, causing you to need a brake job earlier. Clean them off, make sure they're not corroded. These look pretty good. I like to take one off at a time. That just helps me ensure that I get them right back where they belong. Sometimes they are different for the bottoms and the tops. It's like coating a brake grease, nothing too much. If you put too much on it, that can cause the pins to push themselves out. Again, when they're not doing what they're supposed to, you're going to get uneven brake wear. Sometimes you can use a pick to get that out. Instead, I just manhandled it. Clean it off. Alright, now that you got your caliper bracket prepped, reattached on, torqued, your brake pads greased and on, you can go ahead and set our caliper back on. Remember, you are going to want to put the little bump side of the sensor on the back brake pad that's towards the center of the vehicle. If you've twisted your caliper in enough, it should just slide right over. And again, you want to make sure you get that sensor in there the right direction. Probably won't go in the other way, but let's not mess. You feel it snap in, kind of give it a little tug, don't pull too hard. Make sure you're routed all correctly. That way you don't get any snags or anything. We got our sensor in. We're going to get our caliper slide pin bolts started by hand. Always start your bolts by hand. Just to make sure you don't cross thread them. Alright, again, that nut's going to start spinning. So let's get them tightened down. A 17mm to hold the nut. 13 or a ratchet. Of course, I got my wrench stuck. Don't over tighten those, it's easy to strip the threads from them. Usually the torque ratings are between 20 and 30 foot-pounds, usually closer to 20. I usually get them in there tight enough. Alright, now that we got the caliper torqued on with the slide pins, we got the bracket all torqued down, we've got grease on our pads, we've got our sensor run. I clean up the face of the rotor since I've been manhandling it with my greasy gloves. Just a little brake clean, or a lot of brake clean. Wipe it down with your rag. Basically, if you have a greasy rotor, you're going to end up with some smell or smoke on there. Pads won't work quite as well until I burn it all off. So let's just get it set up the right way. Next, we're going to get on the wheel. Alright, when putting the wheel back on with these lug stud type deals, so what I like to do is I like to take my impact socket, just put it on the end there, and I like to thread it through a hole, kind of using it as a guide. So I find where I'm going to thread that in, and slide the wheel along it, and then always make sure to hand thread your bolts. Start, make sure you're not cross threading. And I like to work all those in by hand, a little slower, but again, not cross-threading. And then I will tighten them down just lightly with my impact, and then we'll go around and we'll torque all the wheels that we dealt with. Alright, with both sides done, greased up, torqued down, now it's time to get the wheels taken care of. Beautiful new Icon torque wrench we're breaking in today, 1/2 inch. Let's get it on. 100 or so foot-pounds on this. 110, I think, is what it calls for. beautiful. 110 foot-pounds. Go until we click. I like to go once more around, not pushing too hard because you don't want to over tighten. When I put these on, I did go in a star pattern, so it should be very evenly tightened. Alright, with that, we just have 2 steps left. We have to take it out of parking brake service mode, or brake service mode, and then reset the dash for the sensors. Always remember to get your greasy fingerprints off the wheels as best as you can. Alright, without running the vehicle, I tapped the start button 3 times, went to my scanner, deactivated workshop mode. I heard the calipers winding back, and we're going to end service function. Service function finished. We're going to test the parking brake a few times. Pump up our brakes, make sure they fit nice and solid for this guy. Unplug my scanner. Alright, to reset the brake pad reminders in the car, you're going to tap the start button 3 times. It's going to tell us the service is overdue for the brakes. Bunch of other things here on the dash. It's going to tell us that the brake pads need to be replaced. On the left hand side here you have your little turn signal lever. You're going to press and hold the BC button, BC. Press and hold it until at the bottom of the screen here you're going to have your service menu pop up. It does take 15, 20, 30 seconds or so, I'm not sure on the time. But you're going to keep pressing that. Alright, it's going to say rear brake pads reset possible. Now if we wanted to move on to a different menu, we could just tap it. Otherwise, since we want to do this, it's going to say reset possible. We're going to press and hold the BC button again. Again, 15, 20, 30 seconds. And it's going to say reset. We're going to press and hold the BC button again. And what should start to come up here is reset in progress. We're going to keep holding it until it says reset successful. And then the light is off. The brake lights on the dash are off. I'm going to press the pedal, make sure that's all good. So what we did today was rear brakes on a 2022 BMW X3 Xdrive 30i without the painted calipers. We did pads and rotors. We torqued and replaced the caliper bracket bolts, greased up all of the slide components and the clips, torqued down the caliper, and then torqued down our wheels. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at mitch@onlybrakesmn.com. Appreciate you guys watching today. Feel free to reach out to me if you want to schedule something. Thank you. Have a great day.